I used to take 2 breakfasts. Whew! And now we're going to talk about an eating disorder that I used to have that I haven't spoken about before. Let's talk about that. Okay, yeah, so you heard me right. An eating disorder. And it's not something that I've ever hidden. It's actually something I'd forgotten about, which is kind of crazy. But it's also kind of shows how common these minor eating disorders can become in kind of the fitness culture world, that they're so common that I've talked about this with loads of friends and other people who've gone through pretty much exactly the same thing, but then we got past it, so we kind of forgot about it. But the reality was, there was a time where I actually had an eating disorder. And I'm going to tell you how it came about, why it came about, how you can look for signs if you're going down that pathway, and finally, ways of pulling yourself out of that hole that you might be digging yourself into. Or if maybe you're already in that place, you already have an issue with food. And I'm not saying I'm going to be able to cure you with a simple one-line answer, but hopefully I'll be able to give you a frame of mind, a frame of reference to be able to look at food differently and to stop allowing it to control your life. Okay, so if you're not used to following me, I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstory here. I've always been into sports. I've always been very sporty. I was brought up on well-balanced diet through my mum, always trying different foods. I didn't really have any limitations in palate of what I didn't like. Grew up eating a variety of good, wholesome foods, everything across the spectrum from fruit, whole foods to, crisps and sweets as a normal person would. Then got into college, kind of like that 18, 19 years old, and that's when I started lifting weights a little bit more. Got introduced to it at 16 years old through training in school. But it was when I hit university that bodybuilding, that kind of real weights-orientated lifestyle, took a hold of me, because I had more time, I had access to really good gym equipment, and I started playing a lot more rugby at uni as opposed to like football and basketball in college. When I started playing rugby, I wanted to tackle harder. And tackling harder meant getting stronger. And in my mind, you get stronger by lifting more weights and going to the gym. And because it was so readily available, I started getting really into lifting, and I started to see changes. So then I started looking more at a bodybuilder's diet. What did these guys do? What did they eat to look that way? And obviously, at the time, I was broke. I knew nothing about macros, so I was just living that chicken tuna rice life. Chicken tuna rice, chicken tuna rice. That was where things started. Now, the first error that was made, and most people will make, is they start to restrict their diet. And they start to limit their food choices. And why do we do that? Because we're told that we have to eat 4 to 6 meals a day of this plate of chicken, rice. Chicken, rice, veg. Tuna, rice, veg. This boring consistency. And the reason that has appeared and come to light in life is because if you're not monitoring the food you're eating, as in weighing it out and then checking what's in that food, then the only way of staying consistent and having control to be able to go up or down is to have the same meals every day, and the same number of them, so that then you can take little bits out of each meal, down or up as necessary to gain or lose weight. It's a really rudimentary way of monitoring your food. It's kind of better than nothing, but it's not better in the fact that it restricts food choices, and this starts to lead to a negative relationship with certain foods, and we'll get onto that a little bit later. But that's the lifestyle I was living. Dry chicken, just in a pan, maybe a little olive oil and some seasoning, and then rice or white potato. It wasn't good. None of the food I was eating was good. And I used to live by this, if it's less than 5 grams of fat per 100, I could eat it. Didn't matter like whether the carbs were 9 million. No, because all that mattered was less than 5 grams of fat per 100. So you could see already there were areas in the diet and the philosophies, but I got to the point where I so believed that myth of you have to eat every 2 hours if you want to keep muscle growing, or not, more importantly, not lose muscle. You start to go catabolic. You can't be catabolic. This is a myth. It's been disproven hundreds of times over. You don't need to be eating every 2 hours to sustain muscle growth and the muscle mass that you have attained. Now, if you want to eat 6 times a day or every 2 hours, it's not going to do you any harm other than mentally and probably socially. The point is, do you need to do it? No. And I would believe that if I was awake, I had to be eating every 2 hours. So that meant if we left for the club, at like 10, shut at 2, 12 o'clock, I need to eat something. So what did I do? Got a little bit of chicken breast, got a little bit of tinfoil. I wrapped that little bad boy up into a parcel, and I would slip it into my jeans pocket. And I would, in the middle of the nightclub, when my 12 o'clock alarm would go off,
Cause the players gonna play, and the
nom, 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 nom. Yeah, girl, how'd you like me now? Nom, 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 nom.
shake it off, I never miss a beat.
It's ridiculous. But that was the start of my problem. So the obsessive behavior, this obsessive requirement to link my success with timing of food was the first warning sign. So if you're starting to get like that, you need to understand eating every 2 hours is not necessary. Your body will take in what it needs as you give it. All that matters is you get your calorie requirements in, your macro targets in by the end of each day. That long term will grant you the effects and of the goals you want to achieve, as long as you're hitting the correct targets for your goal set. Believe me, trust me, go research it. You do not need to eat every 2 hours. As long as you get it in during the waking cycle, you're good. So, food goes around your life, not your life around the food. Let's talk about the other problem that I would have. I would have cheat days. Well, yeah, well, what's wrong with that? Makes sense. Have a cheat day every day off every week. Yeah, I earned that. That's true, okay? If you want to go down that side of being restricted during the week and having a day off, that's fine. But it's 100% not the best way of doing things. I'm telling you now. If you want to do it, it's your choice, it's your decisions. There are better ways of doing it. But if you are going to do it, here's the problem. You've already created a negative connotation with that day because you're calling it a cheat day. So you're creating a negative connotation with the food you're going to eat that day. It's a cheat. It's you falling off you're making it negative. For start, just change it simplistically. Call it a reward day. You earned that food, okay? So call it a reward day rather than a cheat day. Immediately we're giving it less of a negative connotation. Having that cheat day, it leads to going from restrictive to gluttonous. So you're going from one extreme to the other. Extremes are never good. So creating extremes in any way during our life, whether it's with food or anything else, is never going to be sustainable long term, and it's never going to be a good mental connection. So to create an extreme of having this restrictive kind of lifestyle through the week to having this one day off where we go very gluttonous and very extreme, it creates a very lopsided connection with different types of food. And having that broad spectrum of connection between foods, like very good and very bad, doesn't give us a happy medium. It doesn't give us a place where we can be sustainable, because you're either in this restrictive stage or gluttonous stage. And then what happens when you don't want to be in either of these stages? That's often the point where people fall off, then start to eat in a non-restrictive but also non-calculated way, and then they tend to gain weight because they tend to lean towards going back to eating those things they deprived themselves of, which tend to be the higher impact foods like sweets and chocolate and things like that. And obviously because they deprive themselves of them, they tend to gorge on them a little bit more than they would if they were just integrated into the diet regularly. And thus we end up in a situation where we begin to gain weight, then we begin to lose confidence, we begin to hate the way we look in the mirror, which then in turn leads again to maybe comfort eating, and we end up in this vicious cycle. And it all stems from creating this restrictive and gluttonous extremes in the way we eat food, or the way we look at food, or the way we take food in. So first things first is to understand the way the body looks at food compared to the way that we mentally judge food, name food, and look at it. The one thing you need to know is the body doesn't have a consciousness. It doesn't look at this water here. This is protein water. It doesn't know. Yes, I do believe that's a Viev protein water. No, your body doesn't do that. It just now takes in, now that it's taken in water, within that, in the gut in there, there's some protein in there. It just breaks down what goes into the stomach. So let's look at something a little bit more extreme than that. If we take 100 grams of roast potatoes, okay, that's a wholesome food. It's pretty good. So it's a roast potato. Let's say it's potatoes cooked in extra virgin olive oil, okay? And say per 100 grams, That potato is going to give us around about 27 grams of carbohydrate. But now we're cooking it in some olive oil, but it's okay because it's extra virgin. And now per 100 grams, we're going to get, I don't know, let's call it 7 grams of fat per serving. Now, I bring in a Snickers bar. This per serving is going to give us roughly the same. It's going to give us around about 20 grams of carbohydrate and around about 9 grams of fat in that Snickers bar. Now, calorie-wise, that's not going to be too dissimilar from one another. But remember, we had a 100 gram serving of this potato, whereas the Snickers bar is probably around about 40 grams. So these are not the same volumes. They provide us with the same rough calories and rough macro breakdown. So we get 9 grams of fat from the Snickers and 7 grams of fat from the whole potatoes. We get, say, let's call it 25 grams of carbohydrate from, good white potato, low GI, good carbohydrate source. Whereas the Snickers bar, it's going to give us 20 grams of carbohydrate, but that comes more from simplistic, high GI carbohydrates, like sugars. But to your body, it doesn't give a shit. There's no consciousness. It doesn't go, num num num. Ooh, that's a Snickers, that's a treat, and num num num, that's some wholesome potato and olive oil. No, it just breaks it down, carbs and fats. How much have we got of each? What do we do with it? Now, on the mental side of things, the potato, it's a 100 gram serving compared to the 40 gram serving of the Snickers. So you get more volume from the potato choice. You're also going to get more fiber, which is going to be more filling. You're also going to get a slower digestive rate. So it's going to satisfy you for longer. So yes, the Snickers bar is going to digest quicker. It's going to make us feel hungrier quicker because it's not going to satisfy us as much. But outside of those physical feelings, the actual physiological side of the digestive side of things, these two to your body, they have the same mechanism. They've got roughly the same carbs and fats in them that go and do the same jobs in the body. Does that make a little bit of sense to you? So, although the potatoes and the olive oil is technically the healthier choice or the good choice compared to the bad Snickers, which is the cheat choice, long term, they do exactly the same job. They've got the same carbs and the same fats in there. So in terms of what reaction they're going to have to your body fat and muscle, it's going to be very little difference. As a health choice, the whole foods are the better. What I'm trying to show you here is the way your body breaks it down, those carbs, fats and proteins from those two meals, it could be the same fucking meal to your body. It doesn't know the difference. We know the difference because one comes in a Snickers wrappers and we've given that a negative connotation as being something treaty and something special. Whereas that potato cooked in extra virgin olive oil, we've been told potato's good. We've been told extra virgin olive oil is healthy for the heart. So we're happy to eat that because we've given it a good connotation to that food. We say that's good. And that side, the Snickers, is bad. But to the body, there is none of this good and bad. There's just what it is. And that's how you need to be looking at all food. Some food is higher impact than other food. Some food is going to be more sustaining than another food. But if you eat the same calories from whichever choice you make, then there's no real difference in outcome. And that's what we need to get over. We need to get over the fact of food making you feel a certain way. And the reason it does that is because we have a lack of knowledge of the macronutrients within food, those proteins, carbs and fats. So do your research into looking what's in something, proteins, carbs and fats. So can you see where I'm going with this? It's that knowledge, or the lack of, that creates these issues that we have with food. So what happened to me is I had this obsessive goal set to look a certain way, and in my mind's eye I need to eat this extreme manner because that's an extreme look. So in my head that's my rationalization, but it's not the truth. If you are knowledgeable of what's in that food that's higher impact, as long as you understand what you're eating, you can literally subtract that from a meal later on of those similar macros or calories, and it just balances. The body will balance. So there's no need to have that feeling of guilt for eating something, as long as it's monitored, as long as it's controlled. And which is why cheat days are so bad, because we eat all this high impact food to such an excess that it makes us feel sick, then we also correlate that feeling of sickness with that bad food. So we compound this issue in our consciousness, in the way we look at food. And that's what happened to me. I was so connected with the way food was good or bad that I then connected the food that I was eating to a physical feeling in my body. So if I ate fried eggs, hash browns, buttered bread, I could then subconsciously feel that fat swishing around in my stomach. I couldn't actually feel this. I'm creating this feeling. I'm creating this sensation that food is immediately fat swimming around my body. Oh, I could almost immediately feel my levels of fat increase a little bit after that meal. It's a physiological impossibility. You cannot get fat from a single meal, just like you can't get skinny from missing a single meal. It's impossible. It's only when we go to excess or do things consistently bad on a regular basis, or, well, no, let's take that out of there, not bad. Do something that consistently takes us over our calorie requirements. If we consistently do anything that does that, whether it be from bad food or even overeating whole foods, good foods, you're still going to gain the same weight if you're in excess of calories. But my problem was I was able to, I'd created such a negative connotation with higher fat foods, because I was so obsessed with a low fat diet and high protein, that I was able to start to make myself to actually make myself feel sick if I had an excessive amount of this food in my stomach. Okay, now think about that for a second. I was able to make myself feel physically sick just with the mental connection that I created with food. That's how powerful the mind can be. Your mind can be such a powerful tool to take you in the wrong direction, or to allow yourself to become more knowledgeable and allow the mind to free you to go in the right direction. Now, I said at the beginning of this video that I had an eating disorder, and this was the point where I realized I had an eating disorder. When we used to go out on a Saturday night, and then we used to go clubbing, and after that we'd end up at a casino. This was in Newcastle. And if you stayed in the casino till 4 a.m, they provided you with a free breakfast buffet. And we were there till 4 a.m. every Saturday night. And when that buffet came out, I would get fried eggs, hash browns, sausages, buttered toast, everything by the end of the day that I wanted to just cram into my face before Sunday came around. Because when I woke up on Sunday, I had to go back to my restrictive, good diet again. Because obviously if I didn't, my body would know. You know, it would know that it was now Sunday and I should have stopped eating. So if I didn't, I would then put on fat because it was now Sunday. See the craziness of this? In the buffet, I'd eaten 5 of these fried eggs. I started sitting there thinking, and I could see the oil on the eggs, to the point where even on my cheat day I would dab them with tissue. I could start to sensationalize that feeling of the oil being in my stomach. And I was able to create such a feeling that I started to feel physically sick. I started to retch a little bit. And I was like, body wants to be sick. There's a negative. The food in my body now is causing a negative. It wants to be sick. If I'm sick, that's a positive, because I'm getting the negative out of the body. So if I get it up, it wants to, must be the right thing to do. If I throw this food up, that's a positive, because I'm removing the negative. And that's what I did. I went to the toilet, and then I was able to manifest such a feeling in my brain that I threw up the food that I'd just eaten. I was able to manifest the thought to make myself feel so bad about what I'd eaten that I threw it up. And this happened for 2 weeks. And after the second time, I caught myself justifying it. And that was the issue. I had justified this sensation that throwing up was the right thing to do. I'd given it a good connotation because it was getting rid of a negative from my body, a mistake that I'd made. And this is the dangerous slope that we can go down. If we start to give food the power to control how we physically feel immediately upon eating it. Because immediately upon eating food, nothing happens. Other than the fact that that food is now in your stomach. It's going to take a good hour or so for that to be digested, moved around the body and partitioned. So if you're feeling something immediately after eating, that is completely psychosomatic. And you're beginning to create and manifest these feelings towards food. And this is what you need to start catching yourself doing. Once you can do that, you need to also understand what I've told you before, that all food is equal in terms of proteins, carbs, and fats are found in everything. What they're not all equal in is the amount that you get for the impact of calories that they provide. Let me try and put it to you in a more physical way. Here we have two things. Pack of nuts, okay? So healthy, raw nuts. Everyone's pretty happy that this is a healthy choice for your day. Now, this little pack here, per portion of 37 grams, will give me 20 grams of fat and 6.3 grams of carbohydrate, 7 grams of protein. Now, something naughty. Cheese. Full fat, lovely, Wensleydale, crumbly, gorgeousy goodness with cranberries. But it's cheese. Surely, Lex, that is terrible compared to the nuts. Well, let's take a look. The cheese per 30 grams will provide us with 8 fats, 3.5 carbs, and 5 protein. So if I take each of these per 100 grams to compare them, because per 100 grams is like saying per 100%. The cheese is 27.4 grams of fat. The nuts per 100, 55 grams of fat. The nuts are higher in fat. But aren't they healthy? Carbohydrates per 100, 11.6 for the cheese, because it's got cranberries in it. 17 for the nuts. Protein per 100 in cheese, 17.8 grams. In the nuts, 19. So there's a couple more grams of protein in there in the nuts. But, portion for portion, the cheese is lower fat, lower carb, and almost equal protein. Yet, you would eat these more likely than you would this, because we deem one as good and one as bad. But you can see macro-wise, portion for portion-wise, the cheese actually gives you less calories overall with the same rough protein amount than the nuts would. So you could just as easily fit in a 37 gram serving of cheese as you could a 37 gram serving of nuts. Does that make sense? Here's another factor. A protein bar. They're all pretty standard now. Protein bars, they'll give you around about 20 grams of protein. That's exactly what this one gives you. But what else do we look at? Do we ever look at anything else on there, or do you just assume that these are good and they're fine because it says the word protein on there? Well, I'm going to tell you now. A Snickers bar, we'll go back to that Snickers. A Snickers bar has roughly 9 grams of fat, say 10, let's call it 10 grams of fat. It'll have around about 22 grams of carbohydrate and negligible, maybe 4 protein because the nuts in there, okay? Let's compare the fats and the carbs. Fats in this protein bar, 11. 11 grams of fat in this protein bar. Do you ever look at that? Carbohydrates, 18.6. A comparable level of carbohydrates to the Snickers. Now, protein per bar, 20 grams. So that has the Snickers. But for that macro, 11 grams of fat, 19 grams of carbohydrate, you could have your Snickers bar, which is 20 carbohydrate and 10 fat, alongside a protein shake, a chicken breast, something high protein, low fat and low carb, alongside that Snickers, is exactly the same as eating this protein bar. If you do not know about macros, I implore you to please study them. Knowing what is in your food, rather than trusting what somebody tells you is healthy, or you've been told through old wives' tales is healthy, good and bad. If you know what's in food, there is no good or bad. There just is what is. Then you should have per day a set target for each of those macronutrients, or at least your calories. Then all you do is subtract what you've eaten from your overall daily targets. And as long as by the end those targets are hit within a range, within say 10% of what you want, then you are on the right track. You have done nothing wrong. Your body is going to react as you want as long as those calories are set up to the goal that you want to achieve. Does this help to kind of bring into alignment, maybe help you realize a little thing, a little truth, a little fact about how there is no good and bad. There's just what's in that food. We create the good and bad. We create the consciousness and the guilt that goes with eating something you think you shouldn't. That feeling that you get of feeling a bit fatter or feeling a bit more bloated because you've just eaten something. It's psychosomatic most of the time. Unless you have an intolerance, it's in your mind. That feeling, you have the power to change it. And the power is the knowledge. The moment that you know eating this cheese, what the exact same value for 37 grams of this compared to this are roughly the same. If you then eat 37 grams of this instead of 37 grams of this, there's no guilt because you now know that they're the same impact. They give your body the same sustenance. Now, yes, we can go into it long term, micronutrient rich food is better, whole foods are better, and that is true. But what you shouldn't have is a guilt from having the odd candy bar, guilt from having 5 grams of butter on a bit of potato because it's going to make it taste nicer. That 5 grams of butter, it's just 4 grams of fat. There's no need to think about it as even butter. It's just 4 grams of fat for flavour. You need to adjust the way you're looking at your diet as a whole. You need to take control because right now your food has control of you. The myths have control of you. And the fact is you're not alone. We've all been there. It's easy to get there. In a world of fitness people I'm surrounded by, I can sit around a table of 6 people and I guarantee 4 of us will have either had or been near to having an eating disorder because we get so obsessive with the food, or we've had a point in our time where our knowledge didn't match our desire. So our extremeness of wanting to get a certain way spilled over into other parts of our lifestyle, and it's fine. You're not alone. But you are able to control it, and you are able to empower yourself with knowledge that will let you take control of your life back. And that's what I wanted to get across. That's what I wanted to share with you. I'm not perfect. I don't ever claim to be perfect. But what I do is always try and look for errors, look for reasoning as to why something is the way it is, I feel a certain way about something. Whether that comes to the training and thinking about what I should be working, where I should be feeling it. If I'm feeling it somewhere I shouldn't be, why? Let's break that down and find out. Don't just plow along because you've been told that's the way. Most of the time the people telling you these things don't look great themselves. Most of the times these people who are giving bodybuilders diets are taking drugs to buffer their lack of knowledge. And then they put that issue onto the client saying, well, if you didn't get into that shape, it's because you didn't do that cardio hard enough. It's because you didn't push hard enough. It's because you weren't extreme enough. No, fucker, it's because you don't know what you're talking about and I trusted you to be telling me truth. But you didn't have the sense to educate yourself further over time as we've evolved, as more information has become available to us. So don't fall into that trap and don't become those people. Everything is at our fingertips. We're so connected now. Everything is available to you. There's a comment section below this video where you can ask me questions directly and I will read them and I will answer them. You are not alone and you have the power to change this. You have the power of knowledge. You have the power of time. You can get over this. You can get through this. I promise you. It just takes time. You just create good habits where you have bad habits. That's all we have to do is create a new mechanism. Maybe you had an idealistic view of who I was and what I've done. I come up with these funny stories, but a lot of these funny stories come out of error from my past that I can now laugh about because I see how silly they were. But that's the point, is a lot of people don't get to that point where they can see the error of their ways. So always be looking for them. Don't blame yourself. Don't get frustrated. Frustration, anger, it leads to no solution. If there is something wrong, find out why. Research. Don't just ask other people and expect them to spoon feed you answers. Find them yourself. Question things. If somebody tells you to do something, ask them why. If they don't know why, then why should you follow that advice? It's pretty simple when you think of things like that. And if you do that and break things down into the simplicity of just asking why, if there's no answer, then don't follow it. Go find those answers. Funny to get that off that chest. I hope none of you are going out into nightclubs and putting chicken breasts in your pocket. I hope you are going out to Club Zone, enjoying your time and enjoying some social life with family and friends. Because remember, this whole thing, this whole fitness lifestyle, it goes around your life. Your life doesn't go around it. So thank you all for watching. I hope this has helped open some of your eyes. If you want me to cover something in more depth, let me know in the comment section. If you want me to cover more things like this, let me know what it is you want to see in the comment section. And if you see a comment that is about something you want to see, like that comment. The ones with the most likes, I'll endeavor to follow through with. All right, the next video you're going to see on this channel will be an update of my vacuum training that I'll be doing every day to help train my waist to be smaller, tighter, and more controlled. Hopefully also develop a better looking core, better abs, and just overall improvement in posture and a good feeling about how to start your day and get it right. So the update for that will be coming in the next video that you see from this, alongside another masterclass video which will be shoulder press this time around. So thank you all for watching. Remember, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of these videos. Make sure to select for all notifications. Hit that thumbs up button, smash it, it really does help the channel. If you've liked this video, please hit that thumbs up and comment below what else you want to see. Until the next one, I've been Lex. I will see you very soon. Boom, baby.